And I'm live apparently. Hello, folks. Hi, Babs. Hi, Brad. How are you guys? Hello, everybody. Thanks very much for joining me. It's been a wee while, hasn't it? Um, on our Science Fiction Friday, and I hope everything will proceed okay tonight as usual. Um, we just popped on just to sort of have a wee chat about what's been happening here, folks, and hopefully so that we can get things back and up and running from this week. Excuse me. And with the book club and with the channel, etc. And sounds good. Thank you very much, Sootpot. So thank you all very much for your patience. We've had a bit of a time here, really since the last 2 months, and at one point I pretty much had completely lost my voice. I've got a wee recording here somewhere of me attempting to read something. I thought I'd keep it actually just to show you how bad my voice was. So thanks very much for your patience, folks. I'm very sorry about everything that's happened. Excuse me. And it's just been one of those things where we've had an awful lot of, I suppose, extraneous issues crash upon us, and family health issues and so on and so forth. So myself and my wife have been effectively acting as carers for the last 2 months. And we've been getting very little sleep and all of that kind of stuff. And not to bother you too much with the details, but it's been a bit of a wee rough ride, and we were just not able to keep up with the work for the book club at the time. So and it was all a bit all a bit sudden, and involved hospitals and things like that, and then plenty of care. And even thinking even everything is going okay. Just before we came on here, we've had a bit of an incident with Bonnie again, with the wee dog. So it's up and down all the time here, but we're trying to adapt and sort of start to get our lives back on the go. So hello everyone. Babs saying, missing you all. So glad we're back. Thank you, Babs. I've missed you guys, to be honest with you, and I've missed doing this. Brad saying, hey Babs, true. Hey, so much has been going on. Feels like an age. It has, hasn't it? There's so much going on in the world, and so on and so forth. Yeah, so it's thank you all very much for joining me, guys. I missed you all very much. It's a great interaction that we have here on the channel. I really enjoy it. So Bob saying, howdy Brad, howdy Sootpot, evening Doc, and hi Doc, the sound is good. Hi Bob and Dra. So yeah, I hope you're all safe and well wherever you are, folks, and everyone. You're all looking after yourselves. The world's a wee bit crazy these days, isn't it? So I just thought in terms of the book club, just where we'd got to, and I suppose with everything that had been happening with myself, I ended up, where did we end up? What, chapter 26, I think? Or chapter 27. I finished with chapter 26 and on to chapter 27. And it was an incredibly dense chapter in terms of exposition and plot being driven and all of this kind of thing. And at the time when I was working on it, I almost thought that I was almost just writing it down word for word. I'm not too sure, but we're going to pick up with that and continue on where we left from, hopefully. And we're going to have a wee bit of a change to our schedule, unfortunately, in terms of how we operate with the book club and how we run the channel, just to hopefully make it more manageable for myself. Which means hopefully then that we'll be letting people down less and less, and that we can juggle doing the book club with, so I suppose, making the science fiction videos as well. So we're going to go to the previous thing with the book club being on Thursdays and Sundays. We're going to keep the Thursday with the book club, and we're going to go to 10 o'clock GMT +1. At the minute, we're going to shift forward in our folks, and I hope that's not too much of a problem, but we will keep that for the Thursdays. As for the Science Fiction Fridays and Saturdays, I'm afraid this is probably going to be the last one in terms of trying to manage that, trying to do videos on those days, and sort of juggle I suppose the extra things that we have in our life at the minute. Means that we can't really open up those days. So we're going to keep a Monday open for general sort of weekly chat and popping in the way we used to. We're just going to shift the days pretty much, but we're going to move the book club to 1 day a week. Just again, June's a pretty dense book, and the way that we're looking at it in a lot of detail. And I'd like to maintain I suppose the way that we're looking at it and keep that going. And we're putting all these up online as well. So the June book club thing will be there forever, pretty much. So it'll be good to just sort of get that finished off. So we'll be starting it again from this Thursday coming at 10 o'clock GMT +1, and we'll put up a wee announcement, etc. And we'll sort of adjust our title cards a wee bit as well. So hopefully that'll be good. I'm looking forward to getting back to that and having a wee bit of time to look at it, I suppose. And yeah, I suppose we break from it's not too bad. We were going at it quite full on, to be honest with you, which is kind of what I wanted. And if the various things that hadn't happened in life, I suppose, if those things hadn't happened, we should have been able to pile drive through June, because it was kind of my intent to get to the other books and then sort of take our time with them. I suppose it's really just to do with how often I've read June, I suppose. So it's really good to see you all again, and thank you for your patience. And yeah, there's Matt S. and good to see you again, Doc. Thank you, Matt. Bab saying howdy, Matt. Brad saying 2 years. I must have found the channel early on. Yeah, it's this is our second anniversary today, and I think around 9 o'clock possibly. But yeah, so two years ago to this day, we uploaded the first 5 June PhD videos, and we put them up we worked on the whole introduction to that PhD, turned it into 5 videos, and this is the day we launched it. So this is our second anniversary in terms of joining YouTube and getting videos up and doing all of this stuff. And I actually thought it was longer, to be honest. But yeah, Brad, 2 years, it hardly seems like it, 2 book episodes a week must have been a heck of a work. Oh yeah, it was. Well, as I said, it's manageable, but I do other things, and I got to earn a crust, guys, as well. So I tutor, and I'm a jack of all trades, if you know what I mean. And yeah, so I do all sorts of things, but we end up, I suppose, myself and my wife, we're the two that sort of pick up after a lot of people pick up their mess and help them out and so on, this kind of thing. And I put it this way: a lot of our problems over the last 2 months are down to other people not looking after themselves. But yeah, a couple of weeks back there, I completely lost my voice, and it was completely gone. And we were getting very little sleep, and the housing executive here in our estate kind of come in with lawnmowers and big sort of industrial level machines, and they're like over 90 decibels, and they're just blasting. So we have a few sound issues as well, in terms of trying to find time and actually where we can get a peaceful environment here to actually sort of do these things. So we're hoping, it's all about, this is what we call silly season here in Northern Ireland. It's heading towards what they call parade season, but it's got the added silliness of it being, I suppose, the platinum jubilee. So everything's a bit silly here lately. In the last 2 months in Northern Ireland have been a bit iffy, to be honest with you. Brad says the Iron Maiden song To Tame a Land is about June, so much so that they wanted to name it June. Asked Frank Herbert's permission, he said no, that he'd sue as he hated Iron Maiden. Oh dear. Iron Maiden are excellent. I don't. There's only a few songs I would know by Iron Maiden. They're not one of my kind of top bands, if you like, but I do enjoy them. Isn't it Bruce Dickinson? Brad, I think, he's a pretty good fencer, isn't he? Is that what you call him, Bruce Dickinson? I think I think he's a pilot as well, isn't he? But I think he isn't. I think he represented whatever the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland call its Olympic team these days. I think he represented Britain at fencing. Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, there's a few songs like that, and I think he's quite funny about it. People wanting to write songs about June and inspired by June. If you see what I mean. And there's a few other. I think one of the most notable ones I can think of is probably Michael Moorcock's Elric. That there's the whole stack of songs by various bands about Elric or Stormbringer or various things like that. Deep Purple, I think, and probably Hawkwind are culprits there, I'd imagine. There's Ryan the Scar saying good evening, folks. Bob sent howdy Ryan, long time no see. And there's Carlos Crescelius. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, Carlos. That's an awesome Iron Maiden story. Well, we got the announcement, didn't we? I suppose, but that Christopher Walken is going to be playing the Emperor in Denny Villeneuve's Dune Part Two. So he has a bit of a connection musically to Dune. What is it? Is it the what's the song now? Isn't it? It's a Fat Boy Slim. Weapons of Mass Destruction or something like that. I can't remember the name of it, but you know the If You Walk Without Rhythm, him doing the flying dancing thing. Um, that's pretty interesting. I don't know what you guys think about Christopher Walken being cast as the Emperor. Um, I don't know. Hmm. I think he's brilliant. He's a brilliant actor, but I think it's a miscast. I think he's too old. Excuse me. Hmm. Because I think the Emperor doesn't really look a day over 30. I believe in the book, but hey, it's not exactly Frank Herbert's Jim. But there you go. So yeah, there's a few. Yeah, the Hawk was Bane of the Black Sword, I think, and but I think sort of Michael Moorcock was in Hawkwind a wee bit, wasn't he? Funnily enough, oddly enough, trying to sort of come up with some science fiction things. Of just and there's been so much happening as you've been pointing out. But I've been running through looking for different kind of short stories a wee while back, and I'd found a few different things. And I suppose it depends on how, the flavor of them and what kind of stories you get in them and the introductions. But the one that I had, oddly enough, I suppose we're talking Michael Moorcock. There we go. This is a really good collection here. I mean, these things are ten a penny, if you see what I mean. There's so many anthologies of science fiction, but particularly for the New Worlds one, the list of authors in here is really good. I suppose you're always kind of wanting to get some really good, but very much a kind of new wave thing. And I'd find this one with uh, Brian Aldiss is edited again, just a sort of collection, and it has a really good selection of authors and stories in it. In fact, this is the one that I've eventually found Nightfall in, which I'm wanting to read. I'm looking to do a video on Nightfall shortly, to be honest with you. But again, in terms of just a couple of wee omnibuses of really good selections of stories, as I said, you'd have to do a wee bit of secondhand book hunting. This one's sorry, that's terrible of me. This one's the Penguin science fiction omnibus, edited by Brian Aldiss. SF Penguin. Yep. This is the publishing date on this one is first published 1961. Copyright Penguin Books. It's an often reprinted one. One, two, three, four, five, six reprints up until the 80s with that one. This one's a pretty good one as well for those, particularly the New World writers. There's a J.G. Ballard, etc. in here. Moorcock. Let's see, who else have we got? Michael Butterworth, Thomas Dish, Brian Aldiss, Norman Spinrad's in here, John Sladek, John Clute, John Harrison, J.G. Ballard again, Christopher Finch, David Harvey, Francis Arnold. There's all sorts of really good stuff in here as well. This one's first published in Great Britain in the Flamingo edition in 1983, in case anybody's ever after one of these things. And it's the New World's anthology, edited by Michael Moorcock. There we go. And that's the publisher's Flamingo. But yeah, Michael Moorcock, I think, very good for all that kind of stuff, Weapon of choice, thank you, Brad. Yeah, my memory's failing me there. Let me back up a wee bit. He's a pilot, yeah. Bruce Dickinson. Colleges and Camels knew I'd forgotten something. Hello, everyone. Hi, colleges. Thanks for joining us. Excuse me, wrote lyrics. RC. If you read the lyrics of the song, it's really obvious I don't enjoy that vocal style. Give me Lemmy any day. Yeah. Is there something? Isn't there? The reason why Lemmy left Hawkwind has got something to do with a hand grenade, hasn't it? I remember seeing some sort of really good documentary, and I can't remember whether it was on Hawkwind or it was on Lemmy. I think it might have been about Lemmy following his career. Yeah, Lemmy's excellent. Yeah, I like Hawkwind with Lemmy in it, by the way. I would, yeah. Walken would have made a great Fenring. Yeah. I mean, he would be good. He'd definitely be good in other places, wouldn't he? Fenring, he would make an excellent Fenring. Yeah, I think it'd be a great emperor if we ignore the fact that he's meant to be quite young looking, I suppose. But yeah, Carlos says, to be fair, Walken is great in everything. Laughing out loud, he is. Hmm. Oh, what is it? The Dead Zone is an early favorite of mine, I think. Redecorated Doctor. Yeah, we will. Hmm. Excuse me. I thought he got busted for drugs crossing into Canada, but Chris, I wouldn't know anything about that. Excuse me, guys. We were actually in the middle of redecorating whenever all our woes kind of started happening. Oddly enough, but yeah, we gave the place a lick of paint, and we've tried to just sort of adjust the lighting a wee bit. We've brought up another bookshelf. Well, we've moved some stuff about, but over here we've got a small up in this corner is my kind of classics library, and all sorts of we have other sorts of science fiction stuff there, and some epics, myths, and sagas and things. But yeah, it was just an attempt to sort of bring some uh, some things up to the room to tidy it up because it hadn't been decorated in years. To be honest with you, it's a wee small spare room. Excuse me. And since we've got the dogs, this is where they've come to live. And we didn't. I don't really have. This is an old poster I had from university. My dad framed for me. That's a wedding present. I don't know if you can see it because it's the place that we got married in. It's a place called Mussenden Temple. And then the four Mad Max postcards are the free Mad Max postcards that came with Mad Max Fury Road, and the complete set box set of the films. And I didn't. I thought I had a wee bunch of cheap frames, so I thought it would help us out a bit with our science fiction set, if you like. And yeah, I thought that was okay. So trying to cut down a wee bit on reflection and stuff, and maybe just move things a wee bit. But the idea was also to try and in front of me here, I have a whole pile of sort of science fiction reference books that I'm always talking about, but never really. Whenever I'm stumped about something, I always forget to grab one and look it up. So maybe at some point when we are stumped, we'll actually make use of them. At some point. I'll have to say, yeah, yeah, got all sorts here, but yeah, thought we'd try to make it a wee bit of a set, I suppose, and we've kind of adjusted the computer a wee bit. Gonna make me a bit taller looking. There we go. But we don't have a lot of room in here, and with an extra dog, and we've had to kind of adjust a bit. We actually had to get rid of the bed and get a cheap, a sort of a futon in or something a bit smaller. But yeah, yeah. So it's just to try and tidy it up a wee bit, brighten the place up a wee bit, and redecorating is a bit of fun. But yeah, we'd actually started this in the middle of, I suppose, where we're at on the 20. I suppose that towards the end of March, and we were in the middle of this, and then the dog had the heart attack, and then all sorts of things. It just snowballed from there. So I do apologize, but yeah, I'm liking it. That's the wife's choice, and I totally agree with. I love yellow brightens the room up a bit, makes it feel nice and warm. And it kind of matches the time machine poster. I thought was quite good. But there we go. So yes, indeed, redecorated. But it looks like we'll be doing it again shortly. There we go. Cannot watch Dune now that I've seen the Dune actor in Marvel's Dire Moon Knight. Sean says, "Good to see you. Happy Friday. Thank you for joining us, Sean. Thank you very much. It's good to see you too." Yeah, I haven't seen Moon Knight. I can't possibly comment. I don't know. I would argue that what's his name actually? Oscar Isaac, isn't it? I'd argue he's badly miscast in June. Uh, I'm yeah. Depends on what you want out of a Duke Leto. Um, to be honest with you, and I thought that the casting was more an attempt to sort of, again, they're after a Greek look, and I thought it was a sort of that kind of thing. I think, and more an attempt to sort of get someone who looked a bit like Jurgen Prochnow, I think, as well, because I thought he was pretty iconic. In the David Lynch, I thought he did a good job. But again, if we're looking for if we're wanting to be honest, whoever's cast as Duke Leto, you need to cast a black actor. It's as simple as that. You know, and I still find the whole nature of representation and the various sort of race issues, I suppose, if you want to call them that come up with June. I always find that quite odd that one of the major characters is always cast as white. It's an interesting thing. But there's a lot of awful TV around at the colleges. There's a lot of awful films. I'll tell you what, though, just keeping my eye out for something, guys. I'll tell you what. there's very few authors or filmmakers who make me go, "Ooh," I can't wait. And one of them is George Miller, and the trailer for George Miller's new film has landed. Let me just quickly get the correct name of it for you. It's a cinema only release, I believe. No, not that George Miller. Hang on, that one. Let me very quickly. Oh, goodness gracious, it's a common name, isn't it? Filmmaker, Australian. Where are we? There we go. 3,000 Years of Longing. Sorry about that. It took me a while to. It's not Furiosa. That's to come, and I'll be looking forward to that. Colleges, 3,000 Years of Longing, um, based on a fantasy short story, I think by one of Britain's poet laureates. Her name escapes me at the minute. I think. Um, yeah, check out the trailer, folks. Whoa, yes, I think you're going to be highly entertained. Hang on a minute. Yes, it's the story. It's based on the short story by the Gin of. Sorry, the short story is called "The Gin in the Nightingale's Eye" by A.S. Byatt. The film's going to star Idris Elba and Tilda Swinton. Let me see. A.S. Byatt. Sorry, is English novelist, poet, and Booker Prize winner. On the 2017 Park Kyung-hee Prize in 2008, the Times named her on a list of 50 greatest British writers since 1945. Sorry about that. I don't think she was a poet laureate. I got the wrong thing there. I'm thinking on somebody else for some reason. Probably the name sounds poetic, doesn't it? Sounds like a poet. But yeah, 3,000 Years of Longing, I think, is that correct? Looks amazing. Looks hilarious. Looks fantastic. Hello, Big Sausage. Hi. There we go. One of the dogs in. Off she goes. But yeah, yeah. I watched the trailer the other day. The music, everything about it, and it just looks like George Miller's doing his magic again. And I can't wait to see it. I think it's a summer release pretty soon, or it might already be out. Excuse me. So yeah, I believe it's a cinema only thing. It's definitely the thing that's made me go, oh, this looks like a movie experience, and the trailer certainly sells the movie, I think. So yeah, have a wee look at it if you can. I highly recommend the trailer. I suppose I can't really recommend the film, can I? Excuse me. There's my throat going a bit funny. So it's weird that, let me see. All right. Brad says it's weird that the silly season is a different time around the world. Here it's Christmas. It's also being midsummer hot and lots of drinking sends people silly. I thought it was just another name for the Christmas season around the world. Alba needs a hit. Possibly, yeah. The silly season, yeah, it's just a euphemism for the I suppose the parade season for the Orange Men here. And I think it's been curtailed a bit for the last couple of years with COVID, but it culminates with them lighting their bonfires on the 11th of July, and then they march everywhere on the 12th of July, and that's their major holiday. So there's a bank holiday here. Excuse me. Excuse me. Yeah. So I suppose, yeah, at the minute we have a massive, it's an environmental disaster. I put it this way: if there is if the world is an environmental crisis and the human race is facing extinction, on behalf of all the Northern Irish people, I'd like to say that you're on your own. We're not going to do a damn thing about it. We're going to make it worse. We're going to burn everything. So there you go. Sorry, that's just I'll just point that out. Don't count on us. Because of tradition. But yeah, Alba needs a hit. Wikipedia priest sounds like something by Angela Carter. Not sure your context there, colleges. I think I might have lost it there. Carl says it's hard to believe that before Herbert, most science fiction paperbacks were 180 to 220 pages. Um, hmm. I would not agree. Probably. Um, before Herbert, going with before June. The argument, I suppose, that there's some works out there that are enormous. But yeah, I get what you say. The average sci-fi paperback, Carlos, is yeah, it's a nice thing. If we look, it's a lot of these books here. I mean, this one here is a compendium, but for example, the Philip K. Dick books are all highly digest. You can read through them pretty quickly. But it is whenever you start to hit these monstrous books, But yeah, I'm sure I'd think of a few, to be honest, but nothing's popping into my head right at the minute. But I tend to think of other types of literature as well. But at around that point, I always go with it. Herbert Asimov, Clark, and Heinlein being the big four is that kind of transition into novels, selling books. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, um, Heinlein's pretty chunky, and his some of his stuff's out before Herbert's, before June. So that it's interesting when you get to hear, oh, publishers won't, oh, we're not going to sell this book. It's a bit unpalatable, the length of it. If you get a sense of older books, oh, for the gin story, thank you, colleges, for getting that for the context. Got you, thank you. Um, Yeah, the film. I haven't read the story, but I want to see the film. I guarantee you that. It's just it's got me excited. Something to go to the cinema for. And based on watching Mad Max Fury Road in the cinema, I know I'm not going to be disappointed. I expect the cinema experience from George Miller, and I know I'll get it. I think, but it's just yeah. Um, yeah, it just the trailer really sold it, and I think there's some actors even, some from of his Australian actors are in there as well that he regularly uses. But I really look forward to that, I have to say. But yeah, it's the thing, Carlos, is you're saying it. I don't know. There's a few I'm thinking on, but if you look at some novels, things like even the Count of Monte Cristo, the Three Musketeers, these kind of things, they're enormous. But dumb, this big, Don Quixote, the big novels, pretty, and I don't think it depends on quality rather than anything else, I think. But certainly it's not something that's going to attract a publisher if it's poorly written. If you see what I mean, and I suppose everybody, with Lord of the Rings and well, when we have Lord of the Rings, we have the Dune series. As I like to point out, we have the Gormenghast trilogy, but they're not that big. And a lot of people forget that the first book of there we go, the first book of of the Gormenghast trilogy or series, if you want, is Titus Grown. Is published in 1946. There's Bojack Harkness saying, "Finally got here. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us, Bojack. It's good to see you. Well, it's for you. I can't see anybody, can I? But yeah, thanks for joining us. It's good to have you here. So we're just to recap for anybody there briefly. We're just saying that we'll return with the book club on Thursday at 10 p.m. GMT +1, and we'll get on with from where we finished. Starting this week coming, and we'll start trying to sort of pick up our videos a wee bit and so on. But as I said, apologies, folks. It has been. I suppose we've been caring for people and animals, and it's just been a very busy time for us. I mean, we were just not getting our sleep or that kind of thing, I suppose. But we're starting to sort our lives out a bit, I think, hopefully. Brad says, "Yeah, the world's gone crazy. My hometown was destroyed by the biggest flood in recorded history earlier this year, 2 meters above the previous highest. They won't rebuild." I take it you weren't living there at the time, Brad. Your hometown where you're originally from. Yeah, at the minute, I'd argue what's going on over just in our estate, it's an environmental disaster. The amount of all sorts of things that are being burnt, and the housing exec, these guys come in, they've just destroyed a whole pile of hedgerows. and bushes where you get pollinators and so on and so forth. And it's just they come in with heavy machines and just run over everything to the point where their kids even leave their jumpers and things like that in the football field, and they just drive over them and shred them. They shred glass and they shred bottles, and that we've got polystyrene and everywhere. It's just floating about like snow, like like poplars or something. It's quite strange. It made me think a wee bit about my friend, the poet Gerard Manley Hopkins, and his kind of nature poems. They're kind of environmental poems, to be honest with you. Things like God's grandeur and uh, starlight night and spring, things like that. But they're just basically about what we're doing. It's not very good, I think. But Northern Ireland's certainly in a lot of turmoil, I think, at the minute. And yeah, it's feeling very like empire. Very like empire. Imperatrix Elizabeth II. Was it Elizabeth? Imperatrix Monday, yeah, Empress of the world. Yeah, it's a bizarre thing. I think it's quite funny that we heard that Prince Andrew is avoiding all of the avoiding the main ceremony because he's got COVID apparently, which is a very good way of keeping him out of the way, I suppose. But there we go. I'm only going to run for 1 hour tonight, folks. As I said, it was just to pop in and chat and sort of, as I said, say hello. I've got a whole bunch of messages, by the way, everybody, just to let you know. I did say that I would respond to them all individually, and I still intend to. So I haven't forgot. I have a whole stack of them, and literally, this is the first little bit of. We kind of aimed to have a wee bit of free time tonight, even though we didn't really have it. It was a bit of a rush. Excuse me. Trying to sort this old throat out as well. Just trying to sort our health out as well. So yeah, it's we're trying to get on top of things and get things managed. I think we'll get there pretty quickly. Because I have to say I do enjoy this, and 2 years in, I think the wee science fiction station that we've created is doing quite well. I certainly enjoy it, and I think we've got some good content up there. And I'll be honest with you, 2 years ago, the June PhD, to publish a June PhD like this, I think I've pointed out, it's the first time it's ever been done. So we did make a little bit of history, and we're not gonna, I suppose, blow our trumpet too much, but myself, I've got to watch that the pronouns. I'm very proud of it, and it took a bit of work and a bit of tweaking. And the videos that we put up the first time, I had a bit with my funny hearing problem, I suppose. There were some issues with them, but we actually went back to them and re-edited them and fixed them and tidied them up, and I think they're very presentable. And I think using the images, particularly with the PhD, all of it, really takes it to a new level. I think it makes it so much easier to understand what you're looking at, especially when you've got something as complicated as Dune. I think it's a great way to present a thesis, to be honest with you. But that's just how we started, and it's kind of, we're heading into the, I don't know, YouTube, and we're chatting away about science fiction, entertainment, whatever. I don't know what it is. I'm trying my best to be educational, I suppose. But there we go. But yeah, Brad. Northern Ireland's transforming quite a bit, and projections for here. Interestingly enough, I suppose the one thing I think is funny that people talk about whether they're going to get a united Ireland, or, of course, unionists don't want that to occur. They want Northern Ireland to be a part of the United Kingdom and Great Britain, is that Ireland is not going to be one. We've got lots of little islands, but the country's not going to be an island for much longer. It's going to be an archipelago. We'll have several large islands, I think. But in terms of population and where that leaves all the Orangemen and stuff like that, it leaves them kind of floating on an island on their own. It's very bizarre, some of the sea level increase, projections here. But every I suppose the thing about it, Brad, is that in terms of everything's connected, the interconnectivity of everything on the planet, but how things ripple into our specific little local climates and stuff, and how it all affects us is all different. But it's where I think it's a bit of a pinch. It's not that the planet, I think, is in any problems. I think it's the human species is in dire straits at the minute. I think it's in big trouble, and I think money's the biggest contributor to it. As long as people are going to keep wrecking things and doing what they do, as long as the money's a problem. an issue. Sorry, I think there needs to be a paradigm shift in human behaviour, but it needs to be a global one, I think. Oh, going down that road. Bojack says, I finished the Three Body trilogy. I really enjoyed it, but it's easy to understand why so many do not. It's a hard one to get into, but I thought worth it. It's true that most characters are weak, but it's good science fiction. I'm thinking about getting near it sometime soon. Bojack, in all honesty, myself and my wife were just chatting. We haven't been reading as much as we've been trying to. We haven't been. I'm still halfway through The Demolished Man, so my readings have been not proceeding. Um, but there you go. I got a quite an interesting wee one here. I can't get the. Let me see. But I just caught recently again Quatermass. I was watching it. I think it's on. It had been on Amazon Prime. Nigel Keneally. If anybody's not familiar with the Quatermass series, Quatermass, the Quatermass Experiment. There's Quatermass 2, and Quatermass in the Pit. Goodness, wonder when these were published. We're talking Quatermass. Wow, 1979. So the film is a fair bit. I think this is a novelization of the film. But the films are pretty good. Pretty good old science fiction, black and white, very atmospheric. Kind of, if you liked your old Doctor Who, that kind of thing, I wouldn't mind. You would like it. I would happily recommend it. It's quite good. Excuse me. I'm looking forward to getting a crack at it because it's an author that I'm unfamiliar with, and I haven't read two. I've read a few actually, new authors or modern authors, if you like. And yeah, it's definitely one that I've got the first one here, and definitely one I'm looking forward to getting into. It's interesting that people are sort of saying that. I keep hearing the same thing. It's good science fiction, but the characters are weak, and and I get the sense that it's an idea heavy book, if you see what I mean. Brad Rose says, I'm sure I speak on everyone's behalf when I say I miss you, but you please put home first. We can wait. Thank you, Brad. No, we're okay, mate. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's just no. We're very good at picking up after. We're very competent people, myself and my wife, and we can deal with all sorts of crap. It's unfortunately that's the problem, is that we don't know too many people who are like that around here anyway. But no, it's a lot of our problems have been in terms of managing our other people's health and things like that. They've almost all been self-inflicted and stupid in some way. And yeah, some sort of more severe consequences, I suppose. I don't want to go into any sort of details about sort of the fact, but my son hasn't been too well for a wee while. It's partly his health has been a big concern. But there we go. But thank you guys, and yeah, I do understand that. And to be honest with you, I'm I'm going to say this. I'm the sort of person that would keep going. I keep running at things, and I kind of have to be told that, whoa, would you calm down, slow down? And I'll just keep going until the crisis is over. If you see what I mean, I think my wife's the same. So but we've both had to tell each other, you've got to slow down, you've got to stop, you've got to take a bit of space. So, and I understood it was affecting the quality of my work as well, which is something I didn't want to happen. As much as I do enjoy doing this thing, and it's not getting paid for anything like that. I do have my standards, and I like to do my best by it. Which and I think when I do my best with the book club, when I can find out X amount of things, there's plenty of things that I don't know. There's a lot that you guys bring to the table. I think it's great. I really do. It's got me thinking about, as much as we're doing other books that would be very useful to do. Interestingly enough, what you were saying, Bojack, and some people not. Somebody else told me that if you weren't familiar with sort of aspects of the Chinese Revolution, this kind of thing, that the three body problem might be tricky to understand. And I keep talking about some of these things that I have. I'm going to try and work towards getting a wee website to get these documents up, or find some way of making them available to you. But I was reading an article the other day about Frank Herbert's The White Plague. It was an academic article published in an old journal, and it discusses the fact that And I thought it was to do with the use of Irish mythology in this book. Um, and noting that the time of its publication was the same time around as the God Emperor of June. I suppose the gist of the article was that Herbert pretty much declaring himself a bit of a paddy, if you like, but the Irish mythology, within the book. Whereas I suppose the global idea of the mythology, even that idea of the hero of a thousand faces, the Joseph Campbell kind of thing, that there's a universality to myth that works within the Dune series, that globally as an audience, we can all see our cultural stories, some aspect of them, even if it's just linguistically, in the Dune series. But what Frank Herbert managed to do in writing the White Plague, using specifically Irish mythology, it's to do with the Northern Ireland situation as well, and terrorism and so on. Was the author of this article felt that the use of that type of mythology alienated the reader, that Frank alienated the reader, assuming that the bulk of Frank's readers were American, if you get my gist. And it was because of how the myth works, that there's a level of unfamiliarity with, I suppose, even spellings in Irish and Gaelic, this kind of thing, and these specific stories. That as much as I suppose it's about the use of predominant myths throughout European and Western culture, that the Greek and the biblical tend to be dominant. I suppose the Germanic, Celtic, Slavic, less so, I suppose, but it depends on where you're from. So it was one of those things that I found quite interesting. I thought it might be worth having a look at that again in terms of if anybody's ever read it. But again, we keep saying this, that I'd happily do so many things. If only I could divide myself, eh? Dear, oh dear. Bojack saying, I've almost finished Tiger. Keep going, Bojack. I think it's a great book. And I think the ending's a bit, whoa. Colleges and cannibals saying the elites are wrecking things intentionally. I get the opinion that, I don't know if you got that idea that we've got 10 years to sort out our climate. So we've got to stop doing all these bad things. To me, that's an indicator to government and industry that you've got 10 years. Go for it. Fill your boots. If you see what I mean, get as much. I don't know, the idea of conserving. If we're not going to be able, if we're going to slap all these environmental restrictions, which I don't think they're really going to do. I think the problem is that the world essentially is run by economists. And we get the sort of parts in world history where we want to kind of different countries put different types of people in charge, and just everything's about the money. And I think I've pointed out that money's a system that has a massive positive feedback loop, which is really bad. And it's just, yeah, it'll just keep going the way it does. I think it's a ever decreasing circles, as they say, But there we go. I don't think anyone's wrecking the environment. I think it's economies and social systems which are being attacked. I do think people are wrecking the environment. Colleges, I can see them at it up the road. So we have the hills going up over towards here, up over what do we call it, Mosenden Temple, and up there. What do we call it? What's the big? A place called McGilligan, and it goes over Limavady and into towards Derry that way. We've got all forests there, and they're just being chopped down to bits. Ireland and Northern Ireland's forests are at about 5 to 10% of what they originally were, and that's kind of to do with the plantations and building, fleets of ships for the English Navy. But our coastal erosion is massive. I get what you're saying in terms of some things, but actively people are out doing this. I've just watched our local housing executive completely destroy an environment for wildlife and birds in a park, and they've left little seedlings behind. They've wrecked the whole sort of series of hedgerows, planted God knows what, but there's nowhere for the birds or animals to go. So they've wrecked their environment, destroyed it completely. And off they go. And the park where we have here is one of the nice things about the place, But at the minute, there's what looks like the Tower of Babel, made out of tires and pallets and stuff like that. There's glass. It's horrible here. Uh, Environmental damage was significant is incidental. You see, I'm kind of on the same path with you. Colleges. It's not about the environment really. It's about a human's ability to live in it. That's where I think we're going. I think and other species, I suppose. But yeah, uh, you know, I suppose we've evolved to live in a certain way, and we will continue to evolve, providing we survive. But we can have a look at Neanderthal. Neanderthal is quite an interesting uh, group of humans to look at, I think. But it's little things done locally or in small increments don't really amount to much, do they? It's whenever it's the mass pollution. It's the city size scale of it all, if you like. I think I don't know. Something that's really good, if you like. Some of the environmental stuff that I read up on for June, and as I said, Herbert's opinions sort of change over the years. I'm trying to remember what it's called, but it was a bit of an eye opener of a book for me. It's called "Small is Beautiful" by E. Schumacher, I believe. Sorry, hang on. It's called "Small is Beautiful: Economics as if People Mattered." It's one of my favorite titles of a book ever, and it's considered one of the most. It's been voted one of the most important books of the 20th century. But there's many such lists. Excuse me. But it really does have a good look at the problem. And it's not so much a book on economics; it's more of a book on environmentalism and ecology. But economically, yeah, it has an idea called Buddhist economics, and it's about just doing things in a small scale. I think. But no,